Every week you hear us talk about muscle activation techniques, and you may be wondering yourself, how quickly can you get results with MAT? And on this week's episode of the Exercise is Health podcast, that's exactly what we're going to be answering for you. We're going to cue our introduction and dive right into this conversation. And welcome back, everybody, to the Exercise is Health podcast, brought to you by Muscle Activation Schaumburg. We're your hosts, Charlie
and Julie.
And today we are talking about muscle activation techniques and a common question that comes up, especially when people are first starting out with MAT, trying to figure out, hey, is this something that I want to explore? Is this something that I want to do? Is this something that's right for me? And one question that often comes up is, how quickly will I be seeing results with MAT? So we want to answer that for you today, but we want to let you know that if muscle activation techniques is something that you would like to experience for yourself, that is our specialty here at Muscle Activation Schaumburg. All you have to do to see our availability and get on our schedule is go to www.matschaumburg.com. On our website, there's a big green button you can click that says Get Started, and you can schedule yourself for your initial MAT consultation and assessment. So this question of how quickly do you get results with MAT? This is something that I've heard for my entire career. I mean, it's a very valid question of like, okay, well, I'm going to invest my time, I'm going to invest my energy, I'm going to invest my finances, invest my resources into doing this. What can I expect as far as a return? And how quickly can I expect that return? We all want to know that question. We all want to know that with anything that we do. How quickly am I going to see some kind of return, and specifically the type of return that I'm looking for? And so what we're going to break down today are three different kind of levels or categories or types of results that you can expect from your MAT session. And each of those results will have differing timelines with which you can expect to get them.
That's right. So the main premise of MAT, if you're new to this, is we want to start rebuilding strength and stability in your body. And that is the main reason why a lot of us have different symptoms of pain, tightness, or your body's like protecting. All those things that are bothersome, a lot of them are rooted in instability and lack of strength. So one of the main thing that we are working on with muscle activation techniques is restoring strength. And so the first result that a lot of people look for is, how quickly will my strength change? And we see people's strength change with every single muscle test that we do. So when you come to do MAT, you're going to notice that there's going to be some movement checking. We're going to check to see how your joints are moving and mostly not moving. Like, we're looking for where is your body not moving well. And then we're going to have a series of muscle tests that probably will address that limitation. And so when we're doing muscle tests, we find weak muscles, and we're able to, in that session or in the next few moments after we do our however we're going to address that area, depending on what style of MAT we're using, you're going to be seeing strength changes immediately because we test it, we address the muscle, and then we retest it. So what's really cool, especially for people that are brand new to an MAT session, and we don't really know what's going to happen yet, is that you'll notice, oh my gosh, that test was weak. I couldn't hold that position that, my practitioner was asking me to hold. And then they addressed the muscle, they treated the muscle, and then we retest the same muscle to check our work and to see how your body responds to MAT. And in that, 5-second, 10-second moment, we see immediate strength changes. Your body goes from unstable and weak in positions to stable and strong in positions.
You're absolutely right, Julie. The changes in strength are an immediate thing that clients across the board experience. And this is something that we see session after session, muscle after muscle, is that we test a muscle, it's not contracting well. We work on that muscle, and we come back and it's immediately contracting better. So we see those increases in strength, and those happen right there in real time during the session. Now, the second change that we see with people's bodies, the first change is the strength. The second change, the second result that we start seeing with people's bodies is their motion starts to improve. So once we start to improve the function of enough muscles, that's when we start to see people's motions improve. Now, for some people, it might just be like one muscle and we start to see a big increase in range of motion. For other people, it might be a whole series or a whole group of muscles that we need to work through. And we may need to work through them multiple times, and then all of a sudden, like that third time working through, it's like, oh, okay, now your hip is lifting much better. Wow, your body's really taking to that now. That motion just, improved a whole bunch. But that's usually something that we also see within one session. Is we're working through an area, we see the strength change immediately, and then wherever your body's at, whatever kind of that tipping point is at for your body, it might just be the one muscle, or it might be multiple muscles, a whole group of muscles. We might need to cycle through it multiple times. We don't know. That's going to be different for every person. It's going to be different for each area of their body, but eventually we hit that tipping point, usually within that one session, where all of a sudden their motion improves a whole bunch. And so that's kind of the second change that we see. First is strength, and then secondly, we start to see motion changing within people's bodies.
That's right. And motion is a really cool one. Oftentimes before you've been, exposed to muscle activation techniques, we think about, oh, I have nice, big, good motion when my muscles are not doing their thing, when they're not squeezing or contracting. We feel like we have nice motion when everything's relaxed. And what you will realize once you come to MAT is that actually muscles squeezing and doing their job is the thing that allows your body to move. And so because MAT takes muscles from an inhibited state and we try to return them back to their normal functioning state, this actually allows your body to move more freely. So getting muscles to squeeze and contract better, which is their job, getting them to do their job better, allows your body to move better. So when we're increasing strength, we're improving stability of the muscles. What it allows your body to do is move more. You're going to notice in a session that, wow, working on, lifting my leg up, and I could barely lift it before, and now I can almost kick the ceiling. And that happens in all areas of the body. As you stabilize the muscles, you get the muscles stronger, which happens muscle test by muscle test, which was the first change we see, number one that we just talked about. You're going to see that motion that those muscles control really opens up. It opens your reins. It makes you more, some people call that flexible. It makes you more mobile. And so motion is number two, very quick change that we see in MAT sessions.
Exactly. And then the third thing that many people are interested in from an MAT perspective is changing some kind of symptom that they're experiencing, some kind of issue they may be experiencing, changing the way that feels. Yeah, they want their body to function differently. They want to feel strong. They want to feel like they're moving well. But there's also some symptom, whether it is a pain symptom or an achiness or, some kind of tightness or something that they are experiencing. Now, with symptoms are typically the third thing that we see change. The first thing we see change is the strength. The second thing we see change is emotion. The third thing that we start to see changing is the symptoms. And the timeline for this varies, and it varies dramatically. And there's a lot of different things that it depends on of how long it takes to see these changes in the symptoms. Not the least of which is how long the symptoms have been going on for. And not just the symptoms themselves, but the underlying issues. Because the longer those have been in place, the more your body has adapted to the compensation patterns that you're currently using, and to your brain kind of viewing that area of your body as something that's painful, something that needs to be protected, something that, it needs to be compensated for. And so the longer that has been going on for, and the more severely that has been going on, typically the longer that timeline is, okay? And it just kind of spreads things out longer from a timeline perspective. Another thing, strong consideration, is if there's actual tissue healing that needs to take place. For example, if you sprain your ankle, and we can get all the muscles around the foot and ankle working better, get that ankle, strong, stable, get it actually moving better. But if there's still some healing that needs to take place, well, now there's a better environment for that healing to take place, but that healing still needs to take place. And so that may be the last little bit, for the symptoms that you're experiencing to kind of go away. Another thing is depending on how well or how quickly your brain and your nervous system overall adapts changes, or how quickly those areas learn, okay? And so in some ways, we're going to be kind of reteaching your brain how to use muscles that it may not have been using for quite some time. And so what we typically see is the younger somebody is, the more fit somebody is, the more strong and athletic and coordinated somebody is, the faster this whole process happens, okay? And the other thing is the more somebody has received MAT in the past and the more consistently they've stayed up with kind of maintaining the system of the muscles, or the status of function of their muscles, the faster all of this happens, okay? When somebody comes in and they're an established MAT client, they've been coming in on a regular basis, and something happens to get tweaked, they did something weird over the weekend or whatever, it may just be like one session, and all of a sudden their symptoms go away because they have such a high baseline to begin with. But when somebody's brand new, and if they are relatively weak or if they are relatively deconditioned, it's been a while since they've done anything like athletic or that's challenged their coordination, and these issues have been there a while, well, that may be a longer timeline that we're working with, just because their brain and the nervous system as a whole aren't used to trying to adopt the changes that we're trying to instill in it.
Charlie, you're totally right. I think that the state of your body is usually the biggest teller on how quickly your symptoms will change. I feel like most of the times when we're working with people, number one and number two are always changing because we see that change in the session. Symptoms, on the other hand, number three, again, is going to be changing across the spectrum. Sometimes we have people that, they have done X, Y, and Z, all these things. They regularly exercise. They have pretty low inflammation in their body. They're not carrying around extra weight, and they're pretty active. And they might have thrown out their back, and something's feeling funny. We usually can make changes in someone like that pretty quickly because, again, their body is very conditioned. They're used to using their muscles. They don't have a lot of inflammation. They don't have a lot of extra stressors on their body other than this, issue they're having going on that's making their back feel symptomatic. Versus someone that is maybe older, has extra fat, or is eating inflammatory foods. Like, for example, they know they should be eating low sugar and they eat tons of processed sugar. That's an example of something that might be taxing your body. That makes changes go a bit slower because of the extra inflammation. Maybe there's, again, less exposure to regular exercise, regular movement, less awareness, body awareness going on. And so most people reach out to MAT because of a negative symptom they're looking to change. And this is always the one that we have to figure out, how long is this going to take for you? Is this going to be, you're going to notice changes in your symptoms within a session? Or is this going to be, you're going to start noticing symptoms change once you've been doing this for a month or 5 weeks or something like that? So it really does vary depending on the state of your body and what you regularly expose your body to. And so when we're thinking about this, in the end with MAT, we're still trying to improve your strength and function and your body being able to move the way it should move. And we know that, hey, when you're moving well and you're strong and you're working on these things, keeping up your muscle maintenance, that oftentimes symptoms are less intense, are less likely to pop up. And we know that when they are popped up, there's almost always a significant contributing factor from the muscle system. And so getting those muscles changed, feeling better, functioning better, stronger is always going to help your symptoms. It just depends on how long is that going to take.
Exactly. And so from a results perspective, the first thing that we see happen immediately during the session is we see strength improve. Over the course of the session, more times than not, we see range of motion improve within the joints and the areas that we're working. And then once we clear enough areas, once we get enough pieces taken care of, and depending on the status of the person's system, how much stress has been on their system for how long, how conditioned they are, everything like that, everything else that they're trying to do outside of MAT, outside of seeing us, all of those are contributing factors. That is where we start to see changes with the physical symptoms symptoms start to take place. So first is going to be strength, second is going to be motion, and third is going to be symptoms. And that is the timeline, that is the order that we see things carry out time and time again across the board, regardless of whether we're working with professional athletes, whether we're working with clients in their 80s, regardless of where they are on that spectrum from a physical fitness standpoint. That's a progression that we see with every single client across the board. So if muscle activation techniques is something that you would like to experience for yourself, maybe you have something going on symptomatically, maybe you're wanting joint motion to improve, maybe you're wanting to feel your strength improve, that is our specialty here at Muscle Activation Schaumburg. All you have to do to see our availability and get on our schedule is go to www.matschaumburg.com. On our website, there's a big green button that you can click that says Get Started, and you can schedule yourself for your initial MAT consultation and assessment. So who do you know that needs to hear this episode? Who do you know that has talked about MAT before, is not really sure if it's for them, in part because they don't really know how quickly they will be seeing the results that they want? Share this episode with them so they can understand kind of the 3 stages of results and 3 types of results that we see carry out and the timeline that we see them carry out across the board for all clients. And while you're online, head on over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to us and leave us a rating and review. Not only does it help people find our podcast when they're looking for information on exercise, it also helps them find our podcast when they're looking for information on health. So if you found value in this conversation today, let us know by leaving us a 5-star rating and review. Well, thanks so much for tuning in. We always appreciate it. Have a fantastic week, and we'll talk with you all next week.
This podcast is for information purposes only. The statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Julie and Charlie Gates, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. This podcast may contain paid endorsements or advertisements for products or services. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical issue, consult a licensed physician.